Sir, like I said, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for making this happen. I will make an effort to ask you actual questions and not just gush about how awesome I think the movie is. So the starting point would be, how much of the working relationship with Patrick that you guys had with Terry helped you, and how much did it evolve because of what this material in French Exit required?
I would say that Terry, the making of Terry brought Patrick and I extremely close to the point that we speak on the phone every day since making Terry, which is, I guess, about, I don't know how many years ago, almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
So we talk all the time, and we talk as we're working on different things, and we share. I think seeing the way that I handled Terry meant it made Patrick trust me quite a bit. And so we were able to open each other's work up in vulnerable states from that point on. And so I have this amazing luck to get to read each of his books before most people are, and get this chance to kind of get a first crack at it as a director. And I would read Sisters Brothers, I'd read Under Major, and I'd love them, but it was very clear to me instantaneously that this wasn't my story to tell. But I was able to read French Exit close to the finished stage in a manuscript, really in one sitting, and it became very clear this is a story that I really want to tell. So the friendship is completely essential for the way, because beginning to work on a movie adaptation before the book is finished is kind of an incredible luxury.
Yeah, most definitely. So let me ask you this. I wonder if you could, if you've been able to, not that I want to, like I'm your therapist, or were you able to pinpoint why the material in French Exit did you feel that story you wanted particularly to tell, that one?
I think so. I think there was a couple things. I think one is that the tone was unlike anything else in the book. It had all the things that I really love, which is going from comedy to drama, but it assembled them in a way that I hadn't experienced before. I didn't understand why I was so moved and why I was laughing so much. There was so much mystery of why it was working, because it was such a interesting combination between having these many different tones and speaking about a world that I so far away from my own. And it inspired me. I think just seeing this collection of characters that really, moved at the beat of their own drum was inspiring for me to give me courage to really try to make this film represent the way that I saw it completely independently. I mean, this truly is an independent film, down to the case that I had Final Cut, and I was really able to dictate, okay, this is a very, very particular way I want to follow this film, and be strong about that. So I was good. I was excited by the world and the characters, but I was also given a lot of courage by them and ultimately the material.
So it's funny that you sort of the metaphor of marching to the beat of their own drum, because I feel one of the things that is very beautiful about the whole third section of the film, where they're all gathering in the apartment, is that they kind of, even though they're different characters, they all fall into this particular wavelength that is very beautiful, and it sort of reveals more about them as characters. As a director, you're sort of the one who has to put all the actors on that wavelength. I mean, was it just good casting, or did you guys sort of literally work on it to sort of everybody on the same page?
Both of those things. I mean, that was the next thing about reading the material, is I felt like the actors that this would bring forth, it's challenging material, it's a challenging tone, and that the actors that it would bring forth would be hungry actors besides being experienced. And I never have had a better experience on set and working with these actors in my life. And so much to do with was everybody was still hungry. Nobody had something to prove. They've already proven all they needed to, but they were hungry and they were up for the challenge. And so the casting of it was an amazing thing, of just looking at those final scenes and looking at them as a family. Ultimately, how do they work with each other? How do they play against each other to get that clash, to get these different tones? And so that's how the casting began. And it really started with Michelle at the top, then Tracy, and getting the idea of, okay, these are the parents. And then from there to Lucas, then to Imogen for Susan, and building this out and seeing how they ultimately could play against each other. And then knowing that great acting is reacting. And so getting them all in the room together and seeing then how can we all play and push against each other and push towards each other was so much fun, and challenge while shooting.
No, it plays beautifully on screen. So let me ask you this, because I feel there is sort of a grand dame aspect to Frances that I feel that other actresses might have been able to play. But this, truly the vulnerability that peels back as you go through the journey with her that makes this Michelle Pfeiffer performance special. Did you think that she brought that to the character, or if you could talk about a little bit about collaborating to getting that part of Frances through in the film?
Yeah, I would say from the first meeting, again, like the first meeting that I had with Michelle, obviously I was struck by her beauty and her intelligence, and her precision, and just her amazing focus, but also the sense of somebody that was hungry and was going towards things that scared her and had a certain courage that comes with that lends itself to Frances. So as Michelle and I were working towards developing Frances, we would kind of circle around, but not go straight into who Frances was until the first day of shooting.
Wow.
And that first scene of the film is our first day of shooting. So when she goes to pick up young Malcolm and take him out of boarding school is really the first day of shooting, and the first time that I got to see all these elements that we've been working on, from the hair to the costumes to the set design to the actors that would play young Malcolm to the location, and then me and her, what would happen. And it was absolutely just the best experience of my life.
Yeah,
Watched her marveled.
Yeah, and I mean, there's sort of a willful childhood innocence that comes through in certain moments. So that's something that was, you think, discovered during shooting as well? Because as cold as she can be, it's very human. So it's wonderful to watch those little moments that you guys peppered through.
It's true, but I think that that's very essential to filmmaking, the filmmaking that I love, and the filmmaking that I'm inspired by, which goes beyond going back to that time when you're a child and you're not just dismissing, okay, the grass is green, the sky is blue, but what actually makes up these colors of the sky, of the grass? Like, what is that type of kind of reopening and not dismissing, and trying to stay very, very open to how the current changes things and what's actually happening in front of the screens. So that kind of that openness that I think that you're talking about, Frances, is an essential part of filmmaking as you look for sparks and you look for life and you look ultimately for truth.
So I mean, obviously she's had a long, distinguished career. You said she's hungry, but she's kind of her worst critic. Like, I've just read some interviews about things. She doesn't watch the film. She doesn't do dailies. Does that ever? I mean, I wonder if that comes across while you're directing her, or she puts it all away. Because I always feel like that must be tough to not get her to second guess what she's doing, because she doesn't seem to know how truly gifted she is.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't. The only struggle that I felt was trying to be as good as she was. Like, just try to be, and give as much as she was giving me. That was the biggest challenge. That was a thing at night. I would see, we would be, after we'd shoot, we'd write each other talking about the next scene, the next day even more. And those discussions would just continue and continue. And I saw somebody that had a level of energy and a level of focus that had never been asked of me before. And like, no matter whether I did a good job as a director or not, I did the best job I possibly could because of the way that she works and she worked with me. I couldn't do better. I try to do everything I can just to try to meet up with her.
No, I mean, and you did that with every single character. So I know it's an independent movie, and this, I mean, while you're in it, like you just have to make the day and the schedule. But I was wondering, when I first wrote you on Instagram because I saw the film for the second time and it just hit me, that scene where they're washing dishes and they have that conversation. She has that conversation with Malcolm, like it's truly flooring and beautiful, and it sort of waves through all the tones of the film at the same time. Did you know? I mean, like, did you set aside a special time to sort of shoot that scene, or was it just like another? You come to set and you look at the sides. Okay, this is the scene that we're doing, and I have to just buckle down and do it.
I knew, and I held off until the end, until really to the point that we knew and completely understood and trusted each other, and had been gotten to the place where we could get where something like what wound up happening in front of me, and I saw it happen. By that point, the actors are so in sync with each other, and so in sync with the crew, and so in sync with, especially with my camera person Toby. um, that's the only way that a scene like that can occur in my mind. And so we had to get to that place and really wait to the end. So there was this looming heaviness that I think was actually essential for telling the story, because you can feel it from the first frame on, is that there's a weight. When we think about French Exit, what does that mean? To disappear without saying goodbye. That's before the film has even begun. And so just to have this weight even on the shoot, I think was intimidating, but also really, really necessary to make this scene that, for me too, I look back, I don't see that as something other than a miracle.
Mm. So, which leads me to what my last question will be, because I know you have a full press day, and like I said, appreciate you making this happen. Um, and it relates to one of the scenes where all the characters sort of muse about if they're lucky or not. So, as a not in a personal way, but do you think as a director, do you think you've been lucky, or do you think it's a lot of work, or maybe a little bit of both?
Well, it's definitely both, and it's also impossible not to recognize the privilege I've been given from both, my skin color and my and being a male. Like, there's a lot of other things that I can't even begin to understand how it's influenced the chance. But the truth is that I've been able to make film after film that I care about and that I can stand behind, and that I'm proud of. And that seems what it's all about for me. That's ultimately what it comes down to, is that I've been able to, it feels like just getting away with it all. The fact that I had final cut in this film at this scale with these people, I think is just is so rare right now. And it definitely took a lot of pushing and pushing and pushing, and being and having the kind of strength that Francis has and all these characters in there, of just going, I'm going to do this one way or another. So I think with that, luck comes. And also, I do have to say, I think that one of the reasons that I responded to your message, because that's how I've done things. Like, when you write somebody directly, that's been my whole career, is writing and seeing, is there a human on the other side of things? That's the only way I've learned how, from the very beginning of making films. All these films I think of as handmade. And if there's anything that I learned from my love of punk rock especially, is just figuring out, like, okay, can I reach out? Can I do this myself? Can I connect? How can I make this? Because how can I get past all these obstacles directly? So that's why I responded to what you wrote. Besides the fact that I think you have Chaplin behind you and I have Chaplin behind me.
Yep, that is true. So that is sort of a fate. No, I have to say, it's the first time. I was telling my wife. I mean, Kay, we're gonna be done in 30 seconds. I promise. It's the first time I've ever reached out to a filmmaker like that, and which is why I'm happy that this happened. But I was I was really touched by the film when I saw it in October in the festival, and then the screener came and I watched it again, and then I was even floored. So I was just kind of like, I was just being greedy, because I truly wanted to have a conversation with the person who did this. And given that I've seen your other films, I wish you all, I mean, you don't need me to wish you luck, but I think there's a running theme, that's the humanity of your characters. It's impressive. and it sort of manifests itself on screen in different forms each time. So I hopefully, even if I don't get to talk to you for the next time, I just want you to wish that you get to do it over and over again, because we kind of need that now more than ever. So I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. All right, thank you so much.